So we are back. This is Necessary Pursuit. I am Shane McCabe, and we are in season 4, if you can believe it or not, season 4 of Necessary Pursuit. I have a very special guest today, Julie Palumbo, who I've known for probably, I don't know, 30 plus years, but I haven't seen you in about 20, I feel. I don't know. I haven't really seen you in quite a while, but I do follow you on social media. I follow you on LinkedIn. You have quite the career and quite the extraordinary kind of background in health and wellness. Julie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Shane. It's so good to see you. And yes, it's weird. I've known you for most of my life and haven't seen you in about half of it.
Right. I know it's crazy. Like we casually talked about this off camera, but like moving away from your hometown and people kind of start a career, start a family, get moving in life. And you don't want to say forget about those things, but when people are not on your radar, they're just not on your radar. But I see and I hear your, stories and I see your Instagram reels and all of your social media posts. And you've been recently featured on local news television type setups, right? In Philadelphia in the market
Yes.
there for
Yes.
wellness and all the things that you do in terms of like wellness coaching and just workshops and cooking demonstrations. But I guess outside of all that, where are you from? Tell me about your hometown. Tell me about, because we come from the same hometown, so I know a little bit about it. But your home life and like your mom and your dad. Where did you get started?
Yes. So I grew up in Wyoming, Pennsylvania. Fun fact, the state was named after the town, and it is a tiny little coal mining town up in the Wilkes-Barre Scranton area. So northeastern Pennsylvania. And I grew up, I have an older sister and a younger brother, and it was a fun time. It was the classic like movie time days, right? Like you go out, find your friends via bike, you come home when the
Hmm.
lights turn on, the street lights turn on, and that was Wyoming, right? Doors open, everyone knows everyone. Very, very small town. And I left there when I was 18 to go to college. And I went to St. Joe's in Philly. And I was a marketing major because I thought my whole thing, like what do you want to be when you grow up? I thought I was going to make commercials. That's what I went for. And when I talked to everyone at St. Joe's, they said, we put people at Pepsi and Campbell's Soup and Wawa and like all these big names. And I was like, that's what I want. But I thought I was going to be making commercials for these places. I didn't want to be in the marketing department. It just
Hmm.
was not, that was not what I really envisioned. So I actually started my career in finance. I was a business major, marketing major, but I started my career in finance. I had a full-time job at Morgan Stanley getting out of college in 2008, and you don't pass that up. So
Nice.
I
Yeah.
stayed in Philly, and I never went home. I'm still in Philly.
Nice. Oh, well, I mean, I love Philadelphia. I say all the time, if it was a little bit warmer there, I would probably come to Philadelphia full time or at least more often than I do. I do love traveling there. I was just there 2 weeks ago and I love to come up to Phillies games and all the fun things you could do in Philadelphia. I'm a history person by, by trade. I
Yeah.
don't like, I'm not like a history buff. You can't put me on like a trivia show, but like, I just love the history of a certain thing or certain aspect, time of the world, in the world. And Philadelphia is one of those places for me for sure. Um,
Yeah.
so you get into finance, you think you're going to be
Hmm.
making commercials, but then ultimately you go to finance, right? You're
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
for a big company, which is a great
Yeah.
opportunity right out of college. How do you pivot from that to what you do now as a certified wellness, health and wellness coach, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It sounds like a complete left-hand turn. I feel like in ways it's like pieces of my past have come together to create my present. When I started at Morgan Stanley in 2008, I about 6 months into my career was diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
Okay.
So Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disease. It is not caused by stress, but it definitely could be brought on. The symptoms could be brought
Hmm.
on by stress. And to say that it was a stressful time is an understatement. And I suffered with my health well about 6 years into my career. I honestly could not go a whole calendar year without being hospitalized. So every
Wow.
year at work, they would say, okay, what are your business goals and what are your personal goals? And every year, my personal goal was not be hospitalized. And I failed it every year. So
Wow.
in 2014, I had a major surgery for my Crohn's. I had a partial colectomy, and I thought, okay, this was kind of like my warning signal. It was just 12 inches of my bowel was removed, but I know people have many inches
Hmm.
removed and J pouches and ostomy bags and
Yeah.
everything. So I thought, I wanted to stop here. What can I do to make this change? Because I kept failing medication after medication. And as I said, I could not be
And
admitted
you're
to the
working.
hospital.
You're a
Oh,
professional, right? You're a
yeah.
young
Yes.
professional. You're making a living and
Yes.
making
Yes, it
paychecks and
was
all the things.
so like I'm in my hospital bed and I knew when I was a trainee, my clock was still ticking to produce. So I still had to hit my asset and
Sure.
revenue goals for the month, even though I was hospitalized 3 weeks of the 4 of the month. It was crazy. But I also wanted to be like every other 20-some-year-old in Philly and go out all the time
Sure.
and eat and drink whatever I wanted. So in 2014, I was like, okay, like hard stop. I need to reset. And I worked with a nutritionist who could get me on the right path towards being healthy because something was causing this to be continuously problematic. And the more that I was suffering, this sounds kind of wrong, but the more I was suffering, the more I was sharing with my clients at the time, my financial advising clients. And they were all of retirement age or approaching retirement. And they would say, all of the things that were wrong with them with their health. Because once you open the door, and I never asked them personal questions, I just spoke, or they knew I was out for one reason or another. The
it's like
more
misery
that
loves
I
company
opened up,
almost.
yes, the more that I opened up, they opened up. And I thought, we always ask people, like, what do you want to do after retirement? Or like, what are your hopes and dreams? But if they're not healthy enough to do any of this, then what good is all the money that we're helping them accumulate and save if they can't even enjoy it? So that started kind of playing in my mind. And then when I would ask them how they were and they were sharing with me, I just wanted to talk about them and their happiness and their health, not about the balance of their 401k plan. So I thought, okay, there's something here. And as I was on my own journey, I saw tremendous benefit in changing my diet. I felt healthy. I had energy that I used to not have. I knew that this was working. In 2016, I was declared in remission with my Crohn's. So I was like, okay, this new lifestyle there's something to it here. And I started to study to become a nutritionist myself because I thought, if nothing else, I know for me, even if this doesn't become anything, it's of interest now. And then I realized that habit change is a big component of having a healthy lifestyle. So then I became certified as a health coach. And I got a few clients who had Crohn's or colitis. And it just started snowballing as a side hustle. And I realized a year in, this, you can't give 100% to two things. So I made a choice to leave. At the time I ended my career at Merrill Lynch. And I said, I told my team, I'll give you 6 months to the end of the year to get everything straightened out. And then come January 1st, I'm out. So I became a health coach, an owner of Best Whole Self, January 1, 2018. And I never looked back.
Well, congrats. That is like a true, I don't know, like a passion calling, or it's one of those things that you hear, like where someone's like, well, no, I did a pivot in my career because I had kids and I couldn't go into the office every day, or I became this because, I don't know, some random like that. You have like a real story of like, you were passionate about hearing what your clients had to say, not so much about their finances, but about like why they were in the hospital the week before or whatnot. You're also just a compassionate person. I could tell, I've known you, like I said, my entire life, but like just talking to you, I could feel that that's part of your repertoire, part of your like day to day, and not just like a standard thing that most people have. You know what I mean? Like,
I was too compassionate. I was too compassionate for the financial world. I will say that. I was too soft.
But knowing what you know now, and you had said something to me about moving out in order to move up, right? That's like something you said, I guess, in the beginning when we first chatted, which actually, ironically, the same day, total sidebar here, but the same day I talked to another individual they're going to be interviewing for the podcast for season 4 on the phone, just casually with him the same day. I'm in the car driving somewhere last week. I think we talked on like Monday or Tuesday. And I'm driving somewhere talking to him on the phone at night. And he said those exact words. You need to move out in order to move up. And I was like, wait a minute, what'd you just say? And he said it again. And I was like, you're not going to believe this, but a person I spoke to this morning said the same thing. I was like, so I don't know if that's like alignment or if that's like, I don't know what. I had to like, to look up at the sky and say a prayer or something. But So move out in order to move up is so true though. Like you kind of
Mm-hmm.
said to yourself at that point in your career, look, this isn't working for me. I can't do two things at once. I need to find a
Mm-hmm.
different road, basically, right?
Yes,
So looking
yes.
at best whole self, where did that come
Mm-hmm.
from? Is it obviously the name describes itself, but
Yeah,
that's your
it's
passion
funny.
now.
I was at my lowest weight when I was my sickest. And I had friends who would say, "Oh, you're so lucky. You are so skinny this summer." And it was literally because I couldn't eat for 3 months because I was on a liquids only diet preparing for my surgery. Like it
Yeah.
was not a good thing. And I always hated the word, I don't use the word skinny or fat. I just like, that is just like an F word that's not allowed in this
Yeah.
house. Like we don't even say the word fat to like our kids, like in any context.
Right.
And I remember working on several things at once. Like I had my financial job. I was studying to
Hmm.
be a nutritionist, and I was doing Duolingo, the app at the time. I was like polishing up on my Italian, and I thought, I just want to be my best whole self. Like I don't want to be a certain size. I just want to be all
Yeah.
around healthy. And that was when it clicked. And I always say that your mental health affects your physical health. Your physical health affects your mental health. And my motto is, it's not about being skinny. It's about being your best whole self. And that's mentally healthy, physically healthy. If you are miserable because you are completely restraining yourself from candy and sweets, and that's the thing you love, then that is not being your best whole self. That's not
No.
being
Yeah.
healthy. No more than is like indulging in McDonald's every day and taking a daily vitamin. Like there's balance involved.
Sure.
And coincidentally, I also use the word BEST as an acronym for my approach in coaching, which is B for balance, E for energy, S for strategy, and T for transformation.
I love that. That's perfect. I mean, that really is. Go through that again. B for balance, E for
Mm-hmm.
energy,
Mm-hmm.
S
S for
for
strategy.
strategy,
Yes. And T for transformation.
T for transformation to be your best whole self.
Yeah.
So, what are your services exactly? So, aside from being wellness, an ultimate wellness guru is what it sounds like you are now. Where can people, I guess, find you, right? You have a website, you have social media. Like I said, I've seen you on
Yes.
LinkedIn. We
Yeah.
casually spoke last week about some TV spots you've been doing. I don't know if it's cooking demos and different things like that.
Yeah.
But what is like, I guess, a typical first, I guess, question is what is like a typical
Mm-hmm.
day for you in this best whole self world? And
Mm.
then where can people kind of see what what you have available to them if they're going through something in their life where they need to find some type of wellness coaching or
Yeah.
becoming
Excellent
their best whole
question.
self?
I coach both individuals and on a corporate level. So if you go to my website, which is just bestwholeself.com, you will see an option for individual and an option for corporate coaching. On the individual side, I offer 6, 8, and 12-week programs where I work with an individual to help them accomplish whatever their health goal is. I do have a soft spot for those who have a chronic illness or something that is chronic within their health, whether it be high blood pressure, they're pre-diabetic,
Hmm.
more than just weight loss, but that always tends to fall in there somewhere. On a corporate level, I do cooking demonstrations, as you just said. As you can see me on PHL 17, has had me on a number of times to do little cooking demos and information sessions. So I cook in my kitchen. The employees, it could be a team event, they dial on too. They're cooking in their kitchens. We make something healthy. And basically, I show that it doesn't have to be complicated to eat healthy, and it absolutely could still be delicious. Then I also do wellness workshops where I talk about everything from beating burnout to keeping your immune system high, setting healthy boundaries. So that's in food and in relationships. And lastly, I do actual coaching for companies, either through one-on-one coaching hours. So I will go either into a company or do it virtually and coach their employees one-on-one so they get their personal issues addressed. And I also do small group coaching for companies. So about 5 or 6 employees join in virtually. We all talk about whatever is on the top of their mind. We share resources, support, accountability. That is really at the crux of everything I do so that they could also attack their goals. And I will say that back into the acronym, so the B for balance, really both professionally and on an individual level, balance just means moderation, not going to extremes. And E for the energy component, that's where food comes in, but you could also get nourishment and energy from those people and the environment around you. And this strategy is exactly what it is when working with me. I create a strategy. We're not just saying, oh, let's, take it day by day. It's a plan. It's okay.
Sure.
What does this week look like? When can you fit in meal prepping? Put the time on the calendar for a half hour to go grocery shopping. Like, it's all strategy. And then the transformation is just getting from where you are now to where you want to be.
I see a lot of alignment with finance and what you're talking about now. And I've interviewed people before. One individual from season 2, his name is Jeremy Scott. It's a podcast I've listened to for years, Jeremy Scott Fitness, but he talks a lot about finance and health and wellness. And listening to you talk about it is very similar to the alignment that he has with his current platform and what he sells and what he does. He is not a finance guru. He's a fitness guy who owns a brick and mortar gym out in Arizona. But in his podcasting, he's been doing it for over 10 years. All of his episodes somehow tie into how fitness and finance kind of align, right? And knowing like what you just said about the strategy, and it's not about like, let's just wing it and see what happens. It's the same thing in a corporate finance world or in a personal finance world. If you're investing into a life insurance or a 401k or whatever that looks like, paying down your car loan, paying down your student loans, whatever that looks like, there's a strategy involved. And then ultimately the transformation comes at the end when you get that big, nice, fat zero balance at the end of your student loan or anything that you're paying towards in terms of growth in your finance portfolio.
Yes. And it's funny. I tell people, it is like, people who are in their 20s. I have a handful of college age students now, like D1 athletes I work with, and they're a blast. They're great. And I say, you're in your 20s, right? So just like when you start working in your 20s and everyone's like, oh, saving your 401k for retirement. And you're like, wait, this is 30 plus years from now. It's the same with your health, because investing a little bit now and not just being frivolous and eating and drinking whatever you want, but really being smart and investing a little bit now is really going to accumulate down the road. Yeah. As opposed to trying to play catch up when you're 55. No more than if you blew all your money until you're 55 and you're like, oh shoot, now I have to hurry up and save for retirement in 10 years. That's going to be really hard. So there's so many parallels. And one of my things I always tell my clients, I say, make it count. So if you really have a sweet tooth and you're trying to cut back, I say, don't waste it on a Hershey Kiss that you find in your pantry or, some dollar lollipop. Wait until you're at dinner. Make it a special event. Have the whole, element of it, the restaurant, where it is. Maybe it's a homemade dessert, whatever, instead of blowing it on this small candy. Yes. Same as money, right? Don't just blow your money on little things. I mean, unless that's, what gets you by, but save up for something that's meaningful. And it's the exact same between both.
No, 100%. It aligns, right? And it's all about that end goal, that end transformation. So where do you see yourself? You're not in the finance world anymore, but your current career at Best Whole Self kind of aligns with that. But where do you see yourself down the road? You have a couple of kids. You live in Philadelphia. Your business is thriving. I see you on TV. I see you on socials. Where, a 5-year, 10-year, do you have a plan? Do you have an end goal? Do you have to grow the business, or what do you?
I do. It's funny, when I started my career as a health coach and I would get these questions, I always said I wanted to be in-house at a company. I don't know if you know the show Billions, but when I started, it was a big show, and it's with, it's about this hedge fund, and they have this woman, Wendy Rhodes, who works there, and she's their psychologist, but it's the go-to. And I wanted to be that, but for health, and have people come to me. I am just there at anyone's beck and call to be I need a session with Julie. And I'd be now, I don't want that specifically. hired by a lot of companies where I am there once or twice a month that I
Mm-hmm.
love. I love the freedom of it. I want to keep doing that. So I feel like it was like the universe being like, okay, you could have that, but it's not a 40-hour a week job. Like you get to
Right.
come in and out. In the next 5 years, I definitely want to continue building this brand. And I feel like that's so cliched these days, but there's so much more to being your best whole self. And especially in a day and age with GLP-1s of people finding different ways to lose weight, that
Yes.
I really want them to stop and think, am I being my best whole self? Am I happy? Am I strong? Are my relationships good? Are my finances secure?
Right.
Really encompassing all of that and keep building it. And I have been told by several people that I should write a book, and just on my Crohn's misery and overcoming that and the life I have now, married with 3 kids, my own business. I am an eternal optimist. So it really, like, mindset here plays a big role. And at some point when I could sit down and like put all my thoughts together, I would like to put something out there that other people could use as a tool to find optimism in their darkest time.
Well, I think that's amazing because as we talked about again last week, that's how this podcast started. I was going to write a
Yes.
book, and
Yes.
I like very seldom would like open my little journal, take some notes. I did it for about 3 or 4 months, and I started writing this chapter by chapter by chapter. Nothing was finished, nothing was anywhere near even completion, but it was tiny bits and pieces, similar to fitness and health, similar to finance, bits and pieces. Compound interest grows over time, right? And I think you should do it because you have a great story to tell, and I think that this is a great outlet for you now that you have
Thanks.
this best whole self business well underway. Well, I really appreciate you being on the podcast. Would you, anybody in your life that you can shout out, or anyone that like helped you along the way, or any kind of like mentors, someone that maybe was in health and wellness that kind of said like, you should do this or pivot or?
Yeah, I would say my above all, support system through my life has always been my parents. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that they had to have thought I was crazy for leaving my successful business and
Sure.
finance to start my own thing, but they were always supportive and always saying how proud they are of me. And I know if it were my own child, I'd be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And within the health and fitness world, I think those who inspire me really are those who either I hear about or I work with who overcome their challenges head on. And I used to moderate for a website that was dedicated to patients, IBD patients. And there's so much complaining, and misery loves company, and everyone loves sharing the horror
Mm-hmm.
stories. But no one talks about the good things. And every article I wrote was an optimistic take on Crohn's, and it got met with a lot of pushback because people are
Yeah.
like, you're crazy. But I do. Anyone who's overcome something challenging, as it's not a setback, it's a set up, I think
Mm-hmm.
is really inspiring because the glass could always be half empty or half full. It depends on how you look at it. So anyone who says, hey, I was dealt with this, uh, this is what's in my control, I'm going to act here, this is beyond my control, I'm going to let it go. Those are the people who really inspire me because as I said before, mindset really plays such a large role in your quality of life.
I could not agree more. Mindset is like the number one in anything. It's how you function daily, right? It's not about, sometimes you even don't feel that great, but your mindset and how you look at something from one side to the other, from one perspective to another perspective, makes the world of difference. And I could not agree more with that.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast. Where can people find you on socials, or what's your
Yeah.
Instagram, LinkedIn, all the things?
Sure. As I mentioned before, my website is bestwholeself.com. My Instagram is actually my name. It's Julie, middle initial M, Palumbo. And my LinkedIn as well is just my name, Julie
Nice.
Palumbo.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast. Season
Thank
4,
you.
after, like we talked about, start writing that book, because 4 years ago, I started making chapters into an actual podcast. So
It's
I appreciate
amazing.
your time. Best of luck with everything. We'll look for you on, what's the the Philadelphia channel where you're cooking?
PHL 17.
PHL 17. We'll watch for you
Yes.
there. And
Thank you.
best of luck with everything. Thanks for being on the
Thanks
podcast.
so much, Shane. Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll talk soon. Thanks.
Bye.